The topic is transformative supply chain management and research, and my guest is Hannah Stolze. She is professor of supply chain management at Lipscomb University. Hi, Hannah.
Hi.
So at the risk of throwing around a lot of buzz phrases, let's give this one real meaning. What is transformative supply chain management and research to you?
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for asking. This is an area of research I'm really passionate about. Transformative supply chain management and research is research where academics, faculty, researchers partner with industry. It's active research that explores ways that business and supply chain management in particular can enhance or contribute to the well-being of individuals, communities, and society at large. So if you think about well-being, we're talking about human flourishing, right? How do humans flourish? And emotional, education, physical, we needed food, and also spiritual, economic, and political well-being. So we're looking at how can supply chains help people globally to flourish.
That's very interesting because it gets away. I mean, normally we talk about the physical logistics of supply chain. This is the human element.
Absolutely.
And so it's a human element both throughout the supply chain, at the source as well as here. I mean, that's the challenge, isn't it? Is going all the way back to supply chain and all the people involved from day one or from raw materials. Can you do that? How do you do that?
Yeah, you definitely have to be strategic. It's not something that's going to happen by accident. It has to be purposeful. And I started out really doing my dissertation work while I was at University of Tennessee doing my doctorate. And I worked with a Fortune 500 company. And I was working in the front line with their sales and route delivery employees, and realized we focus a lot on headquarters when we do research, when we look at strategy. And this company had about 6,000 people in their headquarters, so a large company, but they had 20,000 frontline employees. So the strategies of these companies not only impact their customers and their suppliers, but also thousands of frontline employees. So there's so many stakeholders that can be impacted when a firm says, are people better off when they're in business with us, whether they're employers, suppliers, customers, or just people in the community that are impacted by that firm's business?
And it's interesting because businesses themselves would probably prefer that you just talk to them at the executive level of the people who are cleared to speak about this. But you're talking about going beyond that. Is that a challenge? Are these businesses cooperative to the extent that they give you access to the people you need to have visibility of?
Yeah, and I would say not all industries are the same. And so there are specific industries where they really care. They really want to know that their corporate strategies are getting disseminated throughout their supply chains. If you have a sustainability brand or you are projecting yourself as an ESG company, you can't just say it, you have to live it. And actually executing it isn't just about corporate headquarters. It's got to trickle down to your employees. It's got to trickle into how you're delivering product to market, but it also has to go upstream in terms of how you work with suppliers and how they're getting the product that you desire to use so you can deliver it to the market.
What an interesting point, because as you say, the aspiration, every company at least claims to have that type of ethics, focus on ethics. But how do you understand, how do you know that they're really following through, that they're honestly doing that? As part of your research, I imagine that's a big deal.
Yeah, we started off, triple bottom line was the big accounting word. ESG seems to be the big, kind of financial metrics space.
Environmental and social governance.
Environmental and social governance.
Yes.
And so when companies put these messages out there, right, they need themselves to figure out how are we going to hold ourselves accountable? Because you want to hold yourself accountable before everybody else does.
Sure.
And so I think a lot of it comes down to building out a strategy, knowing who all your stakeholders are, who's impacted by your business, and then having simple KPIs to measure each strategic outcome, each strategic contribution you can make, whether it's on the supplier side, somewhere overseas, or it's your employees, or it's with your customers. So it takes a lot of depth research. And that's why we encourage active research in this space, because you want to be partnering with third-party kind of auditor researchers that can go in, talk to people, and understand where you're really at before somebody outside comes and blows a whistle on you for not following through on your message.
Which often happens up multiple tiers of the supply chain. So again, how do you get that visibility? How do you reach that deep into a supply chain, all the way back to the mine, to the farm, to the supplier of the supplier? how do you do that?
Yeah, and definitely if you have a very large supplier portfolio, which a lot of companies in the US do, they aren't buying from 10 to 20 companies, they've got thousands. You need to know who your strategic partners are, your strategic suppliers are, and then really invest in them so you have a win-win relationship, and you need to have boots on the ground. You need to know and visit them and understand their operations and what's going on.
It is. In the pandemic, how do you get boots on the ground now?
Yeah, hopefully you have really close relationships with people over there that you developed 18 months ago.
Right.
Right, retrospectively, we could all be more strategic, right?
Yeah. I'm interested in you telling me more about this simple KPI thing. I mean, what might be some simple key performance indicators that are important to measure?
Yeah, if you start internal and build your way out, start with your own house and then go to your tier 1 suppliers and customers, and then tier 2, if you have tier 2 customers, you might, and tier 2 suppliers. Internally, if you start with employees, right, we talked about human flourishing and human well-being. What are your benefits like? Are your employees getting educational benefits? What's their healthcare look like? What's their maternity leave? Really simple things internally. When you start building it out to suppliers, it becomes trickier, right? Because now you have to really trust them that they're doing what they say they're doing. So I think also sometimes there's things as simple as we're in the US, we're in North America, so $1 isn't that valuable to us. But our supply chains, when you go out to Southeast Asia and other places in the world, $1 becomes 14,000 rupiah. $1 becomes a lot more for an employee who's working in a factory over there. So I think that there is opportunity for companies to say, how much margin do I have? And if I were to give $1 more, maybe, to product margin or within my supply chain, it can have an astronomical effect on employees working for your suppliers that we just don't even realize the impact of pennies and dollars on people globally and around the world.
So important, the work you're doing. Hannah Stolze of Lipscomb University. Thanks for sharing your research with us. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. I've been speaking with Hannah Stolze of Lipscomb University. Thank you for watching.